Hey, Heather, how are you? Representative Scott is joining us. She just came off the floor. It has been quite a week, Heather, quite a week. Your week started off on an airplane making news. Glenn Beck tweeted about it. We then moved into cannibalism, and then we got we had to vote for you had to vote to retain your speaker, and then apparently your majority leader has now been voted away. So I don't know where you want to start. We got all these bills, a budget process, but how are you, Heather? What's going on?
I'm great. You skipped a big gap where we sat in caucus hours upon hours trying to figure things out behind the closed doors.
Yes, that was.
We were in there 6 hours or something total for the week.
And is that the most that you've had? Is that the most that you've met in one session like this?
Oh yeah. There's been a lot of controversy, as you know, over these budget bills. What happened this week is monumental. I don't know that most citizens realize what happened, but I've heard lobbyists say they've been here 20 some years and they have never seen such success as this week. So although the media wants to distract you with all the other, drama or red meat, what really happened here is a switch and a movement towards more transparency in government. And what's been happening here ever since I've been here is it's impossible to kill a budget. It's impossible to look into a budget, to pull the line items out of a budget. And it's impossible to remove anything without killing an entire budget. And what the process has allowed is unbelievable growth throughout the last, since I've been here, I'll just say for the last 10 years, just unbelievable growth. And what happens is each year, the money that was spent, they try to put that back into the base budget and just increase from there. Well, as you know, when COVID happened, there was a ton of, I think it was ARPA money and all this federal money that came into our state. And now a lot of these agencies have built up programs or stuff around this money, and they want that to be part of their base budget now. Now this federal government spigot's going to turn off, and the state's going to have to pay for that. And thank goodness we have good people, a few good people in JFAC that have been on top of this and stood up against all odds, against all of leadership, against, I'm sorry, I don't mean leadership because we have had support from our leadership, but the executive branch doesn't want this. And we even had bureaucrats that just do not want the transparency. And it's going to happen this year. It is setting the stage on how we're going to do budgets in the future, how we're going to be able to look at these line items and actually say, is this government growth? If it is, do we want to grow government in this way? And that's never been able to happen before.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, you've been there 10 years, and to hear from you the impact that it's having, throughout the state house there, and the lobbyists and the folks that have been long time in government, it just shows the importance of elections. Last 22's election that brought in so many freshmen into the state house, and it also brought not necessarily freshmen who were new to the state house, but freshman leadership, right? Like we had Speaker Moyle's first year was last session. Yeah. You had a lot of people getting new chairmanships, and so you really saw folks who had been around there for a while, who've been wanting to try change, get into these positions where they can enact change. And that's why these elections have major consequences. And this was a huge movement that is happening to push back on this government expansion of government and overreach. So I commend you guys, especially you, Heather, for sticking it out for so long, because you have been one that has been railing against the process. A lot of the bills that come through that you bring are about transparency, about adjusting the process. How much do you look at this as and look, we told people that this is so important because look at what happened. You guys affirmed Speaker Moyle yesterday, and you're going to change leadership with the majority leader position. This was important.
This was monumental. Like I said, most people don't get what happened. I've been pretty discouraged over the past 10 years on the direction Idaho government has taken. This has given me some hope. tons of confidence in our speaker, Mike Moyle. I talked highly of him last year. Making little changes in our process can make all the difference. Last year, he started out the year and said, hey, when we tell government to do something and they don't do it, I want to see penalties for that. He also said, hey, when you write a bill, be specific and do not allow the executive agency to write administrative rules. We want shall not propagate rules. We want to be very clear in what we want the executive branch, how we want them to implement this. And so this was a huge step. He's been around a long time, and it goes to show you can be around a long time and still do the right thing for the citizens. And that's what I saw, him standing up for the citizens, sticking up for his chairman, Wendy Horman, Representative Horman, took the lead in the House. Senator Groh took the lead in the Senate. Both of these people had immense amount of pressure put on them. It was so encouraging to see them not cave to the pressure from the outside, the pressure from the executive branch, and the pressure from other legislators. It was very revealing too. The legislators, the Republicans that are willing to team with the Democrats to continue to grow the size of government in our state. And so that was a big eye opener to many. They basically exposed themselves. And so they tried to fight this process. They tried to stop this process. And that was revealed. I think I put a tweet out there earlier on who they were and what they're doing. They were teaming with the Democrats to undermine this new transparency process. And after we stood firm, we made a statement. And if you noticed, we did remove our majority leader. And that there's a lot to that, a lot that we can't talk about. But I will say one thing. The majority leader of the Republicans teamed with the Democrats to undermine this process. Their name was voted. They voted against that first budget bill, which was going to tell all. That caused a downspin in who is willing to undermine this process and join with the Democrats. And so that played a role in my decision on how we would move forward with leadership and who was doing a good job in leadership. And it gave me a ton of faith in our speaker and the direction he's sending the Republicans in this state. And it's for smaller government, more transparency. It's all the things that should be no-brainers to Republicans in our Republican platform. And so it was a good week. It was a good week for liberty. It was a good week for the people.
Yeah. And it sounds like, and you don't have to tip your hat or anything in this matter. I'm just going to lay it out there. It sounds like within the Republican caucus, you had a majority leader who was with sort of the minority of the Republican caucus. And so maybe now you guys will decide on somebody who represents more of the majority, because what we saw was folks who, and we've been saying it all week here, folks who have signed our Citizens Alliance pledge, who are in good standing, folks who are in the Freedom Caucus that you co-chair, folks who score high on the indexes of the Idaho Freedom Foundation, the CPAC, the Legislative Council. These are all folks who are tracking conservatism, tracking fiscal responsibility, folks who want to cut back spending. All of those folks, they got together, and you guys were united for conservative values. And we just saw the folks who weren't side with Democrats. And that is exactly, and we even saw some of that today during your vote on the budget for education. We saw all the Democrats, and the headline, Democrats vote against education funding. And there were a few Republicans that did too. Yeah. But very, very, very powerful stuff that this week, Heather. And thank you so much for laying this out. What should we expect next? Because I also want to commend the audience for making phone calls and emails and backing you guys. I mean, did that have an effect?
That was huge, because I didn't see any emails that said, hey, we want less transparency. Hey, we want to spend more money for government. all the emails it was very clear where people stood, and it made a huge difference. It helped us in our testimony to say, there's no one that's not in favor that I've heard from that's not in favor for this new system, except the Democrats and maybe people with other agendas. So it was really good. And so what's next? Monday.
Oh, we just lost.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good now. Yeah, tell me about Monday.
Oh, so I guess I'll just say we voted on 5 of the budgets now. Many of the folks that were kind of opposite stand, they stood up on the floor. They said we're gonna support the process now, the transparency process. I've talked to the Senate. They've passed, I think, 3 the last I checked, and they're a party line vote. So this is what the power of the grassroots. As for Monday, we will be back to business as usual. We'll be making up for time that we lost last week, but the fight was worth it. We'll be picking a new majority leader, one that will stay in line with the Republican principles of our platform, which are conservative principles, limited government, and keeping an eye out for the taxpayers. That's what this is all about. People are tired of high taxes and paying for nonsense, and that's what we're going to start cutting back on. And now we'll be able to do it as we line item scrutinize these budgets.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, Heather, thank you so much. You get a lot of noise coming at you, and you stay focused on the signal. That's what we're doing here. So I'm glad we got to dive into all of this today. I mean, we could sit here and talk about cannibalism or rude men on plane flights, but we're not going to do that. We'll let the backbenchers do that, and we'll have fun on X. Where can people follow you, and how can they stay in contact with you?
Let's just do X for now. It's busy. I'm down in session. That's where that's where everything's. They are not censoring like Facebook. So X is definitely where it's happening. The media, they're going to say what they want. They're going to try to distract from the wins for the citizens. And this is a win for the citizens. So go, I don't even give them the time of day. They're irrelevant because the people are not that stupid. They know. So my handle on Twitter is Rep Heather Scott at Heather Scott ID. So if you look me there at Heather Scott ID, that's the best way to find me right now. Don't call my work number. I never check it. So it's not in my office, and I don't even know if I know my password. So definitely X is where it's all happening right now.
Okay. All right. They're jamming the signal now. So thank you, Heather. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. All right, Representative Heather Scott, District 2, bringing us some great insight there. I'm telling you, you heard it from her. You've been hearing it from us, how monumental it was to change leadership like this. We have a lot of credit for Speaker Mike Moyle and his action here. Okay, folks, I want to get to some stuff. I promised you to go through these bills. We'll do a short break. We'll get prepped for that, and we'll see if we can get through these bills in the next 9 minutes or so. We will be right back.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.